Your next promotion is within your control, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 127. Now, you've probably heard that you should lead with your mission, vision, and values if you want to be successful as an executive leader. But in today's episode, I am showing you how you can actually communicate your mission and your vision and your values so that it shows executive leadership that your next promotion is just inevitable. Listen on.
Welcome to Maximize Your Career with Stacy Mayer, a podcast about achieving your career goals while also being yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Maximize Your Career. I'm your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. As of the recording of this episode, I am coming off of a transformational conversation that I hosted inside of Executive Ahead of Time, my lifetime enrollment program where executive powerhouse corporate women get not only promoted into those higher levels of executive leadership, but they learn the skills that are going to help them be successful at that next level. And inside of this program, every single week on Wednesdays, we have a weekly group coaching session with me where I deep dive into the training materials that they receive, and I give more personalized coaching on literally any situation that's coming up for them at work right now in real time. And over the past 36 days, I have been doing an executive reboot. So I wanted to use the months of April and May 2022 as an opportunity to even go deeper into the material and develop and foster a different connection with what I've been teaching over the past year and a half inside of Executive Ahead of Time. Both keeping it relevant, but also because on our weekly coaching calls, I have given so much coaching over the past year and a half that I needed to put it into a training format so that way, as new women are joining the program, they have access to everything that we've been working on in real time. They can actually access these training materials of the executive reboot. They get the 24 training materials that were originally inside of Executive Ahead of Time. And on top of that, they still get the weekly coaching calls and the monthly roundtable discussions with the other powerhouse women in the group. It's absolutely incredible. And the results and the women who are getting promoted and recognized at work, tangibly recognized with higher salaries and higher titles, is just like through the roof right now. This is just absolutely incredible. So the challenge for myself over the month of May was to bring in guest coaches as part of our weekly coaching calls because I wanted to give an outside perspective to my brain and how I've become the leader that I am. And yes, I teach all of this inside the program, but I thought, let's hear it from the sources and let's really connect with the women who taught me everything that I know. And so that I can teach you directly from the source and you can ask them questions as well. So for the first week, I brought in my life coach, Laura Swartzbaugh, and she was reflecting on the training materials on managing your emotions and trusting in yourself. Because if we don't trust that we have our own back, then it's going to be really difficult to raise our hand and to speak up and to ask for more because we're already not trusting executive leadership, like not trusting that they'll say yes. But then in turn, we're also not trusting ourselves that we can handle the rejection, that we can handle the failure, or even, more importantly, that we can handle the success. Like, what if I get promoted, right? What do I do then? And so I brought in Laura to teach just this, the most unbelievable tool that I've ever learned in my life, which is called the model. And this was a tool coined by Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School. And it's such a simple framework for how to look at your thoughts and your emotions as an observer. right? If you've ever been to therapy, you know about cognitive therapy, you know how to be the observer, look at your brain and sort of separate yourself from the emotion. So Laura taught our group this just incredibly valuable technique. And if you're inside of Executive ahead of time, you already have access to that. And if you join us at any point that you join Executive ahead of time, you get immediate access to that training, of course, and as well as all the other trainings for life. Right? So you can go back and you can revisit this brilliant tool. So that was the first week of the Executive Reboot. And the one that I actually want to talk to you about today is the second week of the Executive Reboot. The second part of the training process that I'm taking all of the women through is how to build those stronger relationships with your executive team. Because our goal is that we have the executive team has our back. The executive team taps us on the shoulders for opportunities. One of the guests that came as a participant on the call, she's been in Executive ahead of time since March, I think, of 2021. So over a year since she joined Executive ahead of time, and she received a pretty significant promotion at her organization during that time. And I had her speak for a minute about her experience using 15-minute ally meetings and building trust with executive leadership. But on the side in the chat, she was actually sharing with me about a situation that came up for her at work and how the entire executive team had her back, right? And that's the part that I really wanted to share with you and how good that feels, because so many of you are struggling to, get the recognition, but also to just feel like you belong, that you really have that voice at the leadership table, that your ideas, not just the hours that you put in at work, really matter. And when you start to do the work that I teach in Executive ahead of time, you really build that trust with the executive leadership team. It's amazing. And a lot of the women inside the program really refer to it as magic because it feels that way. You're like, how did I just wave this magic wand and all of a sudden I have so much support from my executive team? It's just ridiculous. And I call it a step-by-step process that I teach in Executive ahead of time that equates to waving a magical wand. It's so cool. So much fun. So the conversation that I had last week was I brought in Jennifer Fisher. So Jennifer has been working with me for 3 years now. We're actually coming up on our 3-year anniversary, and she is just the epitome of success and how this process that I teach works, and how as you continue to grow your career over the years, you go back to these basics and you revisit them over and over and over again. So when we first started working together, she was a vice president, and now she's the senior vice president of sales at her organization. And she was still saying, even after our amazing discussion, that she's like, oh, this reminded me, I need to do 15-minute ally meetings with such and such and such and such. And I have to go back and do that, because what she was sharing with us on the call was about how she's built this extraordinary relationship with the CEO of her organization. And she doesn't work at a teeny tiny company. It wasn't a given that she should or could have a relationship with her CEO. So she shares with us that process inside of the training. Now, before I forget, I want you to know that if you weren't able to attend live, that's okay, because I have made the training available to anyone and everyone to download at any time. You'll have limited access, 1-week access to the replay when you purchase it for only $7. Go to stacymayer.com/badass strategy. And you're going to be able to download this 15-minute ally meeting conversation that we had. And actually, it wasn't just about 15-minute ally meetings. It was literally a corporate badass conversation that we had inside of Executive ahead of time. You'll get full access to that. And then if you join Executive ahead of time, obviously you receive lifetime access to that training. So in that training, we break down like exactly what to say in your meetings, how to say it, I answered lots of questions about politics, about, how do we keep doing these meetings? Who do we do these meetings with? All of those answers are inside of the training. Go to stacymayer.com/badass strategy and get it. But what I'm wanting to share with you today is the greater movement and the energy that I felt coming out of that training. So the training, yes, we were doing a deep dive about 15-minute ally meetings, but I actually titled the training My Corporate Badass Strategy for Doubling the Number of Women Promoted to the Executive Suite. I'm going to say that again. My Corporate Badass Strategy for Doubling the Number of Women Promoted to the Executive Suite. That was the name of the training. And I had to take my own medicine to come up with the name of that training. So many of you are talking about, how do I talk about my professional development? How do I talk about my goals with my boss? How do I engage in these conversations? And one of the steps that I teach in great detail in Executive Ahead of Time is understanding what your 3X vision is. So not your next promotion or even the one after that, but the one after that, right? So where do you want to be 3 promotions from now? And if you are having a professional development or promotion type conversation, the first thing I want you to know is always speak and start from the place of your 3X vision. So when I was thinking about titles for this training, this masterclass, this conversation, whatever you want to call it, it was just phenomenal. I was thinking about what we were going to teach, which was 15-minute ally meetings. And I realized, oh my God, I'm not speaking to the vision, right? The vision is that through 15-minute ally meetings, we are doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite. Seriously, that is the work. That is what we're doing in Executive Ahead of Time. We're literally in real time doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite. And I keep tabs. I keep stats inside my group as to what's actually working. And it's freaking mind-blowing how many promotions come out every single week, how many pay raises, how many meetings that people get invited to. It's just absolutely incredible. So that being said, that's what's really happening is we are doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite. We're not doing 15-minute ally meetings. And so this is my first tip to this podcast episode is that if you are having professional development conversations, talk about your big goal. My goal for this company, my goal working here is to ensure that every house on the block has a solar panel on their roof. And I'm going to do that by getting promoted to president. Right? That's what I'm talking about here. So understand what your 3X vision is. What is your big goal? My goal is to ensure that the drug that we are creating gets in the hands of as many people as possible. My goal is to make sure that our sales numbers not only exceed expectations, but ensure that our company lives on for another 10, 20 years, right? That's a 3X vision for the work that you're doing. And in order to do that, you need to be promoted to vice president, right? You see how this works? So this was my corporate badass strategy for doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite. And in order to do that, I teach you a process called 15-minute ally meetings. Done, right? So tip of the day, right? Start from your 3X vision and then work backwards. And the other thing is, this is how executive leaders communicate on the regular. This is how they're speaking to other executives, right? They're talking about the bigger missions of the organization, not just the details of the day. And you do both at the same time, but you always start with where you're headed. And so this practice of doing this for your career is a great way to start so that you can look forward and practice sharing it, just like I practiced it and it worked. Because now here's another thing I want to tell you is that the training was so impactful because I knew the entire time that I was delivering this training and answering the women's questions that we were actually doubling the number of women promoted to the C-suite. I received an email afterwards from one of the women who joined, and she said, "You have no idea how much you've changed my life just in the free material. I've been reading your book. I listen to your podcast every single week. I am in line for a promotion. The way that I'm showing up at work." Like, this is an actual email that I received. Actually, let me read it to you. Here's what she took the time to email me afterwards. "I wanted to say thanks so much for your knowledge shared during the call. In the process of booking my 15-minute ally meetings, and I'm clear on what to discuss. I listened to your podcast weekly and really loved your book. You have helped me so much." That's what she said. She didn't say, "Oh, thank you so much. Now I know what to do." She's like, "You have literally changed my life." And she's not even a member of Executive Ahead of Time yet. So this is what she is getting out of the free trainings that I am offering in the podcast episodes and my book. And you can do that too. You can literally use all of the tools that I'm teaching to get yourself promoted into the executive suite. And you can join us inside of Executive Ahead of Time and have that happen in half the time. Have that happen without agony, or confusion, and have somebody walk you through the actual process to answer your questions in real time, to show you how these particular techniques actually apply to you. All of that is available to you right here. And that is how we are doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite. It still just blows my mind. So after the call, I had a debrief with Jennifer, and we were talking and very giddy, and we both felt the magnitude of the conversation that we had just had, because she didn't even realize this. I was like, "You realize half of the women in the group aren't in Executive Ahead of Time yet, right? This is their first exposure to 15-minute ally meetings and the coaching and the process that we're doing in here." And she was like, "No way." And I was like, "Yeah. This is huge, right? I'm giving these tools to so many people and making sure that you all feel ready to succeed at that next level." And she was like, "Stacy, you have literally changed my life." And of course, this isn't the first time that she's shared this with me, right? But the conversation that we had in that moment, I think both of us realized that by changing one woman's life, so by her life changing, by doing the work, by originally 3 years ago starting to become the executive ahead of time, really understanding how to elevate other women in the process, she is changing the lives of so many women at her organization, of her entire team at her organization. She is changing the life of her CEO. She's changing the lives of her family. And she sees that. And in that moment, she just saw this ripple effect of all the work that she had been doing on herself and how that is rippling out into the world. So when we're talking about doubling the number of women promoted to the C-suite, I'm talking about you, yes, getting the recognition that you already deserve. But I really want you to take a minute and visualize and see, what would it look like to literally change the face of the leadership table at your organization or at all of the organizations? Can you imagine the ripple effect of that? And it starts with getting you promoted. It starts with you stepping into that next level of leadership so that you can elevate other women along the way. I was a panelist at a conference a few weeks ago in Austin, Texas, and one of the questions that was asked of the panelists is, what's the best way that we can be allies for other women at our organization? And my answer was, the fastest way you can be an ally is to get yourself promoted. And I'm not kidding. We need you in a position of influence at your organization. Your organization needs you in the C-suite more than you need them. We're so inundated by we have to prove ourselves and show up and show them that we're worthy and talk about our accomplishments. But the truth is, you're already worthy. You're already capable of leading at that higher level executive position. That's why, as part of the executive reboot, the first thing I talk about is trusting in yourself, because so that you just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're ready. Then we use the process of 15-minute ally meetings to actually get you into that actual executive leadership position. And then the rest is gravy. And that's what Jennifer was talking about, is that everything that has come after that, her ability to show up for herself, to learn how to be that executive leader, has propelled so many other pieces of her life. She can literally look at lives that are changing around her. And that's the ripple effect. I don't take that for granted either. That by me offering these tools to you on this podcast, to everyone on my training, my corporate badass strategy to double the number of women promoted to the executive suite, and from every single woman who has gone through executive ahead of time, or the leadership table where we're taking women and deep diving into more personalized, guided executive coaching. That is why I've had women working with me for years, because they want to be successful at that executive level. It's not just about the next promotion. We have so much more work to do in this world. And I told her, I said, I don't know what the name of this movement is, but it's big. I feel it and I know it. Ever since my book came out in November, I have really felt this transition for me as a business owner, going from Stacy Mayer as a coach to doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite, right? Like, it's a mission beyond me and my coaching business. And that's why it's so important to get these tools and strategies out to more and more and more powerhouse corporate women, because we need to change the face of the leadership table. And this is how we're going to do it. So if you're listening to this podcast episode, if you joined us for the amazing training that I did a few weeks ago, share it with a friend. Go to stacymayer.com/badass strategy and get this tool into as many women's hands as possible. It is such a valuable tool. It is game changing. And it is literally how we are going to double the number of women promoted to the executive suite each and every year worldwide. I am so, so grateful for you as a listener to this podcast. Thank you in advance for spreading this valuable training, for letting us know how it landed for you. I can't wait to see you again next week. Bye. Before you go, I want to invite you to join us inside of Executive Ahead of Time. Executive Ahead of Time is what I call my little army of corporate badasses that are doubling the number of women promoted to the executive suite each and every year worldwide. Inside this group coaching intensive program, where you get weekly coaching and guidance from me, you are going to learn how to not only land your next promotion, but to have success once you get there. And by success, I mean an actual voice at the table, the ability to step into your true, authentic corporate badass self, and a community of other corporate badasses where we're learning from each other, challenging each other, and stepping in to that next level of leadership. If this sounds exciting to you, I invite you to join us now at www.executiveaheadoftime.com. Once you enroll, you will have lifetime access to over 24 core training modules where I break down step by step how to build trust with executive leadership so that you get tapped on the shoulder for opportunities. You'll receive weekly coaching and directed guidance from me, and we'll have roundtable discussions with the other corporate badasses in the group. This is a community like nothing that you have ever experienced. We are all challenging each other. We are stepping up to the plate, and we're making opportunities happen for ourselves. Go to executiveaheadoftime.com and join us today.